April from April's Home, and today I'm here to just have a little bit of a coffee chat with you and to catch up on things, as well as give you some updates on things that have been going on in my life and how I'm kind of dealing with homemaking right now in these uncertain times. So I thought I would jump on here and just share a few of my thoughts and what's been going on with me. So the first week of all of this going on with the virus going around, the first week was really hard for me emotionally, as I'm sure it was for many of you. When things are uncertain like that, it really has a way of setting off my anxiety. And so yes, I was doing a lot of praying, a lot of thinking, and just being really upset and having to kind of breathe through that. We decided to go ahead and self-quarantine here at the house for quite a while now. I've been here for 11 days now. I'm an introverted person though, so being home doesn't bother me so much. That's not the thing that really bothers me. Although I do have to say I very much miss hanging out with my children and hanging out with my sweet little grandson who I miss, but thankfully technology has allowed us to keep in contact. Just last night, since we had to miss our family dinner gathering, we all got on a FaceTime chat, and I chatted with all the kids and said hello to my little grandson, and that was really fun. So it's so wonderful that technology can be there to help us, you know, keep connected with the people we love. Because we weren't able to go to church this Sunday, we missed out on that, but also again, because of technology, our pastor was able to live stream on Facebook his sermon. So that was really wonderful to get to still hear that and be able to connect with people in the comments of that. So there's a lot of wonderful blessings that we have with technology right now that do allow us to stay connected with people, which I think is really great. So this week I'm kind of getting in the hang of things and feeling much better, kind of just watching what's going on and, you know, doing what we're supposed to do to stay healthy. We have been, as you know, if you follow my channel, doing a home remodel for a really long time now. It's taken way longer than we thought it would. So our house is still not quite done, which is kind of a source of frustration. But the one good thing about being at home and my husband being at home is that we are making quicker progress with wrapping that up. And I'm really excited to have hopefully the bulk of it done by Easter. That's the goal, and I'm hoping to get the house all decorated for Easter. Even though it might just be me and my husband celebrating here, I will at least be able to share pictures with my family and things like that. So I'm excited for that and getting that done. One of the nice things about my home remodel, something that has been really helping me out, was a couple of pictures that I decided to hang up in my living room. One of them has a wonderful verse on it that every time I look at it, which it's kind of right in my view from where I do a lot of my sitting and thinking, and I'm able to look over at that Bible verse, and it just gives me a little bit of hope. So I thought that right now I would go ahead and insert a clip of that picture and that verse so that you can see the one I'm talking about. So here's that. So these are the pictures that I've added to my living room here. I've added a few more pictures, but I'm hoping to share that with you when I get everything done. So this one says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future." And that is Jeremiah 29:11. And I really like that. The part where it says hope and plans for a future, that's been really inspiring to me this week. Again, this is a picture that I see when I'm in my living room doing my thinking, and this has definitely been something that I've glanced at and has given me some comfort during this time. And then also this one here, this is kind of a dark picture here, but this is in my hallway, and it's a picture I've had for years and years. It says, "Be still and know that I am." And this just reminds me to be still and know that God is in control. And this one helps me out all the time too. So just another one of my favorite Bible verses. And this verse here can be found in Psalm 46:10. So that is another one of my favorite verses. So those were fun pictures to have already had hanging up, and that brought me a lot of comfort. Those verses, as well as a lot of the other verses that I go to when I'm feeling anxious, have really been helping me out. So I've been having a lot of thoughts about the importance of homemaking during time like this. I've been a homemaker for a very long time. I was a homemaker when I first got married. Before we had children, I was a stay-at-home wife, and then I was a stay-at-home mom and a stay-at-home wife again now that my children are all grown up. And I've really enjoyed that. It has been the right choice for our family, and I have been lucky to be able to do that. And I I really love that. So I have a lot of thoughts about homemaking. I've taken my job as a homemaker very seriously over these years. And I think right now, homemaking has definitely been on my mind. I think it's really important to be managing our homes in times like this. The more organized things are and the more you're aware of everyone in your house's needs, the better you can get through difficult times. So if you have an illness in your family, or you're all just at home, you're homeschooling the kids now, that a lot of schools are shut down. The schools are shut down around here. So you may be at home now, homeschooling kids for the first time, or having children there and having to be home from your work if you're a working mom, or perhaps you're a stay-at-home mom and the kids are home, or you're already a homeschooling mom. Any way it is, there's so many different setups for how families run successfully. But either way, being organized at your home is just a really important thing. It helps to be frugal, to manage your food, to just have a plan for things that might come up. It's nice to be able to manage that. So I've been thinking a lot about that. I recently pulled out some of my favorite books, just kind of read through. These are really old books. These are actually like reprints. So these books themselves are not that old. They're like historical reprints. This one is by Mrs. Child, and it's called The American Frugal Housewives, dedicated to those who are not ashamed of economy. And it really gives some very, very cool, old-fashioned tips about being frugal and homemaking in general. One thing that I noticed about all of these books, they're all by Mrs. Child. So I have Mrs. Child, The American Frugal Housewife, and one called The Mother's Book, and then one called The Family Nurse, which is kind of an entertaining look on how people took care of their family's health in the 1800s. So very interesting, not necessarily all applicable to today, more of just like historically interesting facts. But one thing I noticed about these tips in here, the timeless tips, are being clean, being frugal, being organized, and being aware of how we're running our homes. So great books if you want to check these out. If you are a history buff or somebody who just is interested in homemaking back in the 1800s, the early 1800s, definitely an interesting book to check out. This is, again, by Mrs. Child. So some interesting books, interesting thoughts in those. Before this whole pandemic situation occurred earlier at the beginning of this year, my goal had been, I came up with words like I do every year to sort of guide my year's goals, and I never got a chance to come on here and share it. We've been just so busy with everything this year. But that was to create rather than consume where I can. So rather than to focus on shopping all the time and acquiring new things all the time, I really wanted to be more creative this year. And because of those goals for myself, I had put into place a lot of low buys for myself this year. I've been on an extremely low buy for things like makeup and just household decor and candles and all that kind of thing. I've been wanting to really just be on a super low buy for that, and just be really aware of what I'm using and what I need, so that the house isn't full of clutter and things I don't use and money being wasted. So I already kind of was geared up with that type of thinking. So in a way, it has sort of prepared me for right now, when just because times are uncertain and I don't know what's going to happen to the economy, that I want to be very conscious about the things I purchase and the way I spend the money that comes into the home, and just to manage my home a lot more frugally and purposefully. So even though things are different now, I'm just still gonna plug on with that more conscious choices, frugality, and being more seeing what I can do with what I already have before I go out and consume. So that's just something that's been on my mind all year, and I would love to get into sharing more about that as I have time to do so. Again, one of the things that I've been considering as I've been thinking about my homemaking and how I'm running things right now is organization is the key. One of the first things I did when all this first started happening was really take stock of everything in my fridge, everything in my freezer, everything in my pantry, and just kind of look over everything, write down the few things that I needed, go and do grocery shopping. I did not go and do a big panic shopping. We actually did our grocery shopping at the first of the month like we normally do, and we had that all ready to go. So we just picked up a few things extra, some comfort foods, and just a few things to fill in some holes in my pantry that I had. And so the way that we're organizing that is we're making sure that we first use up anything perishable, things in our fridge first, even if it means a meal plan switch, which we've done multiple times. We kind of, just because it's me and my husband only now, we have not been running off a really strict meal plan. We kind of look at what's going on in the fridge. I look at what's going on in the fridge and decide, what needs to be used up first. So using up the fridge first, the freezer second, and then the pantry third. Things that are shelf stable, they can be last or just come in as sort of supplementing the meals that I make so that nothing gets wasted. So knowing what I had on hand and what I needed made it so I could get all of my grocery shopping done before all the sort of craziness happened in the stores. So I've decided that for now, we're just gonna stay here like we're supposed to, avoid the grocery stores as much as possible. I'm sure we'll need to go out in about a week and replenish some of our supplies. Hopefully, we won't need too much. I plan on hopefully going through our freezer and doing like a freezer challenge. It's something I've been seeing online a lot, and I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I have been trying so hard for the longest time to get my freezer stock down, but as it's just my husband and me, now that we're empty nesters, things just do not get used up at the same pace. And it's definitely been something that I'm really trying hard to get used to. This May will mark the 1 solid year of us being empty nesters, coming up in May, and I'm still getting used to it. It's still, I just was so used to for years cooking so many big meals that's just my nature. And a lot of times I'm still cooking big meals and then they end up lasting us for multiple days. So I'm really trying to work hard on figuring that out, and I'm just really interested in that. So I'm hoping again to start sharing more recipes, as time allows. I'd really love to do that. I was raised really close to my grandma, who was actually a child during the Great Depression, and she shared with me so many stories of how they made it through that time. My great-grandfather worked at a dairy, so during the Great Depression, they were one of the really lucky, blessed ones to every day he could bring home plenty of milk. So they always had lots of recipes to use up their milk, and my great grandma was an amazing baker, as was my grandma. She learned from her mom, and they all canned food and grew food. So I grew up hearing lots of wonderful stories about that, and my grandma passed down recipes to me many years ago that I have learned myself. So I also got the gardening bug from my grandma, and that's also something I love to incorporate, and that's something I definitely want to be sharing. Also coming up this year if it's possible. And speaking of the garden, the weather was absolutely stunning last week. We live in Oregon again, for those of you who are new to the channel. I live in Oregon, about an hour outside of Portland, and the weather last week was just beautiful. It was like summer, not quite super hot or anything like that, but sunny the whole week. And this week we're back to our normal rainy Pacific Northwest weather, which I don't mind at all. I really love it. It makes my garden green and keeps all the trees so green and pretty around here. But because of that sunny weather, I definitely got my gardening bug. I've kind of taken stock of what needs to happen in the yard, a lot of weeding, and getting it ready for gardening season. I placed an order for some of my seeds. A lot of them were out of stock. So if you're wanting to do your garden and you haven't ordered your seeds yet, definitely just a tip to kind of get on that. Get your seeds if you can get the ones you want. So some of them were out, so I decided to try a few new things instead. Really excited about that. I ordered some sweet potato starts. That is not something we very commonly grow here in Oregon. At least not many people I know grow sweet potatoes. But my grandma had an extremely green thumb, and she was able to grow sweet potatoes successfully here. I remember her telling me about that and some of the tricks she did to do that. So I'm going to see if I can remember how to do that, prep a spot in my garden, and give that sort of experimental plant a go, which would be great because I love sweet potatoes, and I think that'd be a really fun thing to have growing in the garden. So hopefully, again, if everything goes well, this year I'll be able to get back to my garden vlogs. Hopefully I'll share with you one coming up here real soon as I start that garden prep. There's a lot of weeding to be done. The only things growing out there right now are, I have a lot of herbs in my garden that just grow all year round. And I've got some lovely chives growing and a very lovely crop of garlic, a whole big patch of garlic that I got growing last fall. So we've got that going on, and we'll get the rest. So besides homemaking and some of my thoughts on that, which again, I'm super excited to be getting into and sharing more about, in addition to these books, something I'm really excited about that I've had for years, and I've always thought it would be so fun to look into them and kind of work with them a little bit, learning some of those recipes and tips. I have some vintage, like 1950s, 60s era home economic textbooks, and I just think it would be so fun to go through those books and try out some of those recipes and try out some of those housekeeping tips. So really exciting thoughts for this year, some of my goals. And then just in other things we've been doing, we've had a lot of free time. So we've been watching a little bit more TV than we normally do. I thought I'd share some of the fun things we've been watching. We decided to get CBS All Access so that we could watch the new Star Trek Picard. I didn't order it when the Star Trek Discovery came out. I do intend to go back and watch that at some point, but I was a huge fan of Star Trek The Next Generation as a teenager. Absolutely love it. And I was just really excited and really intrigued to see how they would play Jean-Luc Picard in the new Star Trek. So if you're a Star Trek fan, I would highly encourage you to check out Star Trek Picard. We have been loving it. The storyline moves along nicely. There's a lot of wonderful tidbits in there for fans of the previous Star Trek The Next Generation, so you kind of see some of the old people come up and some of the old things from that, and those have been really cool moments in the show. My husband didn't watch a ton of Star Trek The Next Generation. He's not like a huge Trekkie or anything like that, but he has also really been enjoying Star Trek Picard. So if that's something that you want to check out, that would be a fun one. We've really enjoyed that. And because we started watching that when we got all caught up and we still wanted something else to watch, we decided to watch some of the original Star Treks again. Of course, we saw those way back when we were children, but it's been such a long time that we thought we'd give it another go. And it's so fun to watch the original Star Trek, to see all of the different effects and stuff that they have. It's really interesting to see the way that they filmed things differently back then, how they dealt with like effects and stuff like that, and just the storyline in general. Sometimes it's a little cringy and funny, but I really like it. The storyline is still really fun. So we've been having a lot of fun with that, as well as some other older shows and stuff that we've been finding on Hulu and Netflix and things like that. And then we're also really big, me and my husband really are big on going out to the movies. We love seeing movies in the theater. Of course, that is something we can't do now with all the theaters shut. So I was a little bummed that I wouldn't be able to see some of the movies that I'd been excited to see. But then I found out that they'd be releasing those movies online. So we were able to rent the other night the movie Emma, and that was really good. We popped up some popcorn and really enjoyed watching that. That was a really fun treat, and I look forward to seeing any of the other movies that we were hoping to see in theaters come out for now, and I think that that's a really fun thing. I know that on Disney Plus they released Frozen 2 early. Me and my husband have not sat down and watched that yet, although I would be interested in it. I don't know about my husband, but my kids really loved it. They loved the original Frozen, and I know that my daughter watched it, and her husband, they watched that together, as well as my son and his wife and my little grandson. They all watched Frozen and then Frozen 2. So fun things that they have online, which I think it's really great that they have some entertainment, that they decided to do that. It makes being at home all the time a little bit more bearable. So yeah, that's what we've been up to. We've been hanging out at the house here, getting things cleaned and organized, working on our projects. My husband is still able to conduct some of his work from his home office here, which is nice. And we've been playing with our dogs and making plans with the garden and all those fun things. So we're fine here. We're trying to stay healthy because that's extremely important right now. And I hope that all of you are staying healthy as well. And I hope you enjoyed that update. So this week I do plan to film a couple more videos. I hope to start getting out there filming a little bit more this year if everything goes well. I hope you enjoyed this little chit chat, this little catch up. I didn't drink much of my coffee. I'll have to go heat this back up and finish this now. And I really enjoyed catching up with you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more videos from April's Home. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.